40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
Last time out in the Britpart All-Wheel Drive Safari Championship in association with Par Homes from Whitchurch MOT Centre, we had a new winner on the score sheets as Douglas Devonall Batt managed to take his first victory of the season with a very different podium to what we're used to seeing. Round 6 of the championship then headed to the sunny seaside town of Ilfracombe. Only the weather had a very different idea. Plenty of rain leading up to the event and a threat of more on the day. It was going to be a slippery and challenging event for our crews. Straight out then onto that slippery course, and it would be the early lead for Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley. The order of things seemed to have returned. It was a great start on paper with a 20-second lead, but in reality the pair had lost first and second gear on run 2. Not ideal, and looking like it wasn't something they were going to be able to fix. That meant they'd have to do the rest of the event with third gear and upwards. Bit of a Days of Thunder day to come then. Winner last time out, Douglas Devonall Batt, will be second place for now. There was still a chance he could take advantage of those issues up ahead to claim another win. But for now, second place was a good start and showing that pace was no fluke. If he remained there, it would be more valuable points towards that championship campaign. This weekend would see Mark Hones out again in the Mini, not fighting in the championship, but always entertaining to watch and a good benchmark for others on the leaderboard as well. He reaches the end of the opening few runs with third place overall. Mick and George Chick had made some changes to the car since their last outing, and they were pleased to report they seem to be working well, making a good start to end the morning without any issues to report in 4th overall. It was a strong start as well for Hemi Smith, putting in some strong times on the course to end the morning with 5th place overall. No issues committing to the faster sections of the course this weekend, as you can see. James and Philippa Tennant, though, would have a problem with the car going into limp mode on the second run of the day. Hardly ideal. They do, though, thankfully, make it back to service. A chance to sort the issue without any loss of time either. Cy Badge and Kieran Fogarty, meanwhile, come into this round tied on points in the championship with a number of crews. Ironically, it would be with Team Tennant and Hemi Smith, who were in the 2 positions up ahead of them on the leaderboard. Things were going well though, and that fight would look like being on for the rest of the day. For Jason and Deb Walken, it would be 8th overall. The times coming down as the morning went on, they were almost a minute faster by run 3. And for Paddy Barker, it was 9th overall at this stage. Another crew getting the times down as the morning went on. And rounding out our top 10 leaderboard for now will be Scott Benwell and Paige Davies. Everything going to plan for the pair. They were working well inside the car and enjoying the remarkably slippery stages here at Ilfracombe. Anticipating their early start to drive to the event, Dave and Lindsay Bakewell had their car loaded up the weekend before. Unheard of levels of readiness in motorsport. It is usually last minute after all. They went into the course as the first car off the line, keen as ever, so they'd be faced with some of the more slippery sections, but they get through the morning with no issues. For Alec Freeman, it will be 12th place after 3 runs. A good, solid start to the event and a clean run so far on the course to lie 3rd in Class 7 as well at this stage. Some modifications to the car were working well, seemingly, for Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan. It was now handling perfectly, the pair reporting that they were having fun. They also had a good lead in Class 4 as well at this stage. For Leighton Dodds, it will be 2nd place in Class 6 at this stage, lying in 14th overall. And Paul and Nathan Kite come to this round with a freshly remapped car and a new turbo. so they were looking forward to putting it through its paces on the steep and slippery course. They end the morning 17th overall, second in Class 4. For Edward Barnes, meanwhile, it was third in Class 6. A good start, also lying in 18th place on the leaderboard. William Freeman and Matthew Hickson were lacking a bit of power, particularly on the steeper hills, but they were still pushing well, enough to bring the times down as well as the morning went on. Margaret Bakewell and Pete Wilson, though, almost didn't make it to the event. The car wouldn't start when getting ready to load up at home. It turned out to be a starter motor problem. Thankfully, husband Mike was able to order a part online to be delivered to a local parcel drop box and collected on Saturday afternoon, getting the car sorted just in time. They have a good start to the event, though, despite those early worries, without any of their recent reliability issues. Rhys Mathieson would be out on his own this weekend. Dad Sean unable to make it to this round. It was the last-minute choice to come, but the points in the Freelander Challenge were needed, and so far, it will be the lead in that class just where he needed to be and vindicating that decision, surely. Second of the Freelanders at this stage was Thomas Parker. The times were close, though, less than a minute separating them, so it was all still to play for, and only a small mistake needed to change those results around. For Daniel and Alan Wilcox, it would be third in the class. Not the best of starts, as the wrong tyres on the car would cause some big slides. Entertaining to watch. Pretty difficult inside that car, including one off the course, taking a while to recover himself back onto the track. The same thing happened again on run 2, but this time a lot less of a detour and, as imagined, a lot less time lost. For Rob Morris, it would be second place in Class 8 for now, lying in 29th place on the overall leaderboard, but with a maximum on the third run of the morning affecting that overall position. And for Tony Rooney, it was a position behind in 30th, lying third in Class 4 as well at this stage in the event. Third place, meanwhile, in a different class for James Withers and Andy Kent. Third in Class 9, in fact, for the pair, but a little way off those times up ahead for now. Jordan Shirley would be out this weekend with the navigator's seat taken by both Pete Darnley and Jordan's sister Zanfi. Sadly, it wasn't all going to plan, though, with a Panhard rod breaking in run 3, costing them a maximum and some significant time on the overall results sheets as well at this stage. And this weekend would mark the first time out in the Freelander Cup for Connor and Jason Francis. They were pretty happy with how things had gone so far. The slippery, steep course had certainly picked a challenging event to bring the Freelander out on its first event. So 3 runs complete here at a very tricky Ilfracombe. The leaderboard is shaping up like this. On to the next couple of runs then, and there's no change at the top of our leaderboard. Despite those earlier issues with the gearbox, it would still be the lead for Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley, hanging on. The car was able to cope with the course in third gear and upwards, believe it or not. Second place at this stage belongs to Douglas Devenall Bat. Winner last time out, of course, just trying to manage that position now and lie in wait should anything happen to DiGiulio up ahead, and with the gearbox missing a third of its gears, anything could happen. In fact, the top of the results really wouldn't change much at all. Mark Holmes still holding on to third place in the standings and still going well out there on the course. Mick and George Chick were enjoying things as well. The car suited to the course this weekend, so they were able to get plenty out of it. They take fourth place for now, only a few runs remaining. Things still going pretty well for Hemi Smith. The time's good, the position's still the same. A good end to the morning in 5th place overall and in that class battle. No issues through these runs for James and Philippa Tennant. James doing all of the driving this weekend, the pair remaining in 6th place on the overall leaderboard. And things were still going to plan for Cy Badge and Kieran Fogarty. The 3 crews tied in the championship standings at this stage were all pretty close, just a handful of seconds separating them. No issues to report for Jason and Deb Morgan though. They continue their pace to remain in 8th place overall, 4th in the class. A similar story for Paddy Barker, 5th place in the class, just behind and only 20 seconds off Jason and Deb at this stage as well. So rounding out the top 10 with all that said will be Scott Benwell and Paige Davies. There would be some communication error, shall we say, in the car when Paige meant to call for Scott to go up your side of the track and instead just shouted, up yours. Sadly, we lose Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan. A shock braking in the woods, damaging the brake line. No time to carry out the repairs. It was time to get that car back on the trailer and game over. We just got 3 more runs to go here at Ilfracombe. Things steadying out as far as the leaderboard and the conditions were concerned. Here's how the results are looking, pretty much the same as they were in the morning here in Devon. On to our final runs then, and a look at how the crews finished things today. It would be 28th place overall for James Withers and Andy Kent. A maximum on the final run of the day, not helping those times. For Connor and Jason Francis, it would be the same issue as the rest of the Class 1 crews. Rain coming in the afternoon would cause the course to become slippery once again, despite settling down before this, slowing down the overall times. They do have a clutch issue on run 6, but make it back to service to get it fixed and finish the day. Daniel and Alan Wilcox would be one of the Freelanders getting stuck once the rain came. It wasn't the best way to end the event, but the times unable to change much, they decided not to complete the final run, saving any damage before the next round. For Tony Rooney, it will be a 2nd place in Class 4 finish. He also takes 24th place on the overall leaderboard. And for Rhys Matheson in the Freelander, well, you can guess what happened. Yeah, he got stuck once the rain came. Sadly for him, that would lose him too much time. He'd drop out of the class lead, ending the event 2nd in class. So that means it is a class victory for Thomas Parker. It had been a bit of a lottery this weekend. With the weather and the mud and the pace out there changing throughout the day, it was hard to get a feel for things. It would be a good, solid finish with all that taken into account, getting stuck a little less than others to take that class win. Margaret Bakewell and Pete Wilson will be happy with their finish this weekend. They've had problems throughout the season. Finally, they get to the bottom of them with this change of injector unit, and they end the event 3rd in Class 7 as well as 20th overall. Jordan Shirley with sister Zanfi and Pete Darnley alongside will be disappointed they weren't higher up the leaderboard thanks to their earlier issues. But they were happy nonetheless with their times when things were going to plan. This also Pete's first time out in the car, and things had clearly gone well as far as he was concerned. There was bitter disappointment though for Hemi Smith, a maximum on the penultimate run of the day caused by damage to the front corner of the car. That will push her down to 17th overall. Along with many of their on-stage rivals, the team would work to get the car fixed and they get back out for the final run. Fair play to them for that. There'd be no issues to report though for William Freeman and Matthew Hickson this weekend. Their times good enough throughout the day to get to the finish in 16th place overall, 5th in the ever-popular Class 6. The only issue that Paul and Nathan Kite would suffer this weekend was a lack of wipers on the final runs of the event. Not ideal, you might say, in these conditions, but at least it had now stopped raining, so it could have been a lot worse. Apart from that, things had gone to plan, and they take the Class 4 victory. A disappointed James and Philippa Tennant, though, struggled in the rain, and they'd hit a gatepost on the penultimate run, which would see them stuck and losing valuable time. They don't get a maximum, but they weren't far off, losing around 10 minutes. That score dropping them down to 13th place overall. For Edward Barnes, it was 3rd in Class 6. A strong end to the event with a 12th place overall finish too. Brian Dyke would end things in 11th, just outside our top 10, with the times good enough to take 2nd place in Class 7 this weekend. The biggest shake-up in the leaderboard, though, would see Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley, our early leaders, dropping down from the lead of the event to finish in an eventual 10th place overall. They went out for the final run of the day, still nursing those gearbox issues and hit a tree with the rear of the car, ripping the wheel off. A disappointing end to what should have been another victory despite their tribulations this weekend. And for Leighton Dodds, it will be 9th place overall. A good, strong end to the event, taking 2nd in Class 6 as well. Everything would end up going to plan for Scott Benwell and Paige Davies. They climb up the order a little through the final runs and take 8th overall. They also take the Class 6 victory as well by a few minutes, in fact, by the end of the event. Dave and Lindsay Bakewell didn't get through without any gremlins this time. Electrical problems towards the end of the event. They were having problems with the horn and the wipers, and they definitely needed at least one of those this weekend. They end the event 7th overall and with the Class 9 victory despite those late problems. It was a good end to the day for Jason and Deb Morgan. 6th place overall, the pair also managing 2nd in the class. A good weekend without any issues to report. And for Paddy Barker, it will be the Class 5 victory. Some good times throughout the day, slowed only a little by the rain that came again through the afternoon, but class victory will be his, along with 5th place overall. It wouldn't be the AWDC without some last-minute drama. This time, it was the turn of Mick and George Schick. A damaged gearbox close to the end of the event would leave them with only 2nd and 4th gears. Between them and Andy Zizulio, they almost had a full set. They knew they had to get to the finish, so the last runs of the day were completed with some expensive sounding noises coming from the car. But they make it to the finish in 4th overall, with that Class 7 victory, crucially. For Cy Badge and Kieran Fogarty, it was another podium in challenging conditions, their 2nd in as many events. They managed to keep things tidy, finishing the event in one piece and pulling away from that championship battle due to the misfortunes of Team Tennant and Hemi Smith. Now, all they had to do was get themselves to the next round and try to maintain that position in the standings. Clearly, here in the AWDC, that is easier said than done. There was frustration, though, for Douglas Devenall Batt. He was looking for victory number 2, particularly with Julio slipping from that number 1 spot. But he himself drops down the order a little through the final runs, ending the event 2nd place and missing out on victory by just 14 seconds. But in terms of the championship points, it was the perfect end to the event. But that all means is a well-deserved victory for Mark Hones. There had been some problems to contend with the car, and very last-minute final run to get the times in after sorting those. But he does it, and with enough pace to jump into that number 1 spot and take victory this weekend. So before we chat to our crews at the finish here in Ilfracombe, here's a reminder of how those overall results were decided.
Brilliant, yeah, really enjoyed it. Great course and a great site.
You just had a bit of a problem with the car before the last lap. What was that?
Yeah, the alternator belt decided to let go. Got right around the pulley on the alternator and the shaft of the rear diff. Got sorted out, put a new one on, and away we went.
It's been a great course. It got a little bit tricky when it rained, but slippery this morning, dried out, very flowing. Bit difficult in the woods, got really rough towards the end, but it's been good fun.
Yeah, it's been a really good weekend. We had 8 good laps, good clean laps. Tried to make the most of the dry weather in the morning. Did 5 good laps in the morning, and then we just had the 3 wet ones to finish off. Kudos to Philippa and James. They were pushing me all the way to the end, and Hemi as well, so well done to them. But just keeping it clean and not having an off, just managed to get it to us at the end of the day. So yeah, it's good.
So the championship nears its final rounds. It's now all eyes on the championship points leaderboard. So much can and probably still will happen. And you can join us on the remaining rounds as the championship reaches its conclusion. We'll see you in a few weeks' time. Thanks for watching.
there, 40 for Raidable Crest Titans.